Well, how about some action wobble cards for Valentine's Day? These were so fun to make and I just can't keep flicking them. I just made some backgrounds with some Gina K glitter glitz and some Nuvo Moonstone Glimmer paste, and I put action wobbles on all of my cards. Some quick Copic coloring, and I made 3 really quick cards. I also have a bonus shaker card for you as well. Now these are wobblers. I don't think they wobble as much because of the ribbon, but I love the way they came out holding their hearts. And this is your bonus card, is a see-through shaker card. And it was really easy to make and I really enjoyed it. And let's get started. So Gina K and Nuvo both have some really great glitter gels. I tend to like Gina K a little bit better. I grabbed some stencils from my stash. The My Favorite Thing hearts are no longer available, I do not think, but you can grab any stencil from your stash. It does not have to be hearts. As you'll see, I used some tiny bubbles and some falling snow in a coming up in just a second. So this is the Holtz Splat Box and the Pixie Spray. I like to spray the back of my stencils with this. That way it sticks down to my cardstock and I don't have to worry about my gels or paste getting underneath the stencils. So you spray it and you give it about a minute or 2 to dry. So I sprayed all 3, set them all aside, and then I grabbed the first one that I sprayed. So I'm lining it up. Now I'm grabbing my Gina K Iridescent Glitter Glitz with my Simon Says Stamp Rosy Cheek Stamp Pad, and you can't see me, but in the lower right hand side I'm squishing some ink onto my glass media mat, and I'm mixing it with the paste. And the reason I'm doing this is I want a light pink, and I don't know if you knew this, but you can color your iridescent paste any color you want. So I just wanted to put a little bit in the center of this background. I knew I was just going to create a focal point with these little tiny images, which I'll show you in just a second. And so I'm just not covering the whole thing. I'm just using a little tiny bit. I'm going to grab my stencil pal and scrape it off so that you can save the extra. And because I already had some pink already made, I thought, well, let me just create a few more backgrounds so doesn't go to waste. I did not use them all today, but I set them aside for future projects. So I did another focal point, and this one I covered the whole background, and it was squeezing it a little bit out of the end to get the whole thing covered, but I managed to do it, and I love the way these backgrounds came out. So make sure you set them all aside to dry, and then wash all of your stencils, all of your tools, everything right away. Otherwise it will stick on there like cement and you will never get it off. This is the My Favorite Thing Staggered Hearts. Again, I think it's discontinued, but you can use any stencil that you want. And Gina K Red Velvet Glitter Glitz, and I'm trying to cover the whole card. I ended up not using this in this particular video, but again, I'm going to set it aside for a future card. I have an idea. I just kind of ran out of time, and I wanted to focus on the action wobbles because I really, really like the action wobbles. And then this is a Altenew Tiny Bubble Stencil. Again, I'm just doing a little focal point in there because I have these little tiny images that I'm going to be coloring. So it says Paper Rose Heart Animals. It is Simon Says Stamp Heart Animals. It is not Paper Rose. And Simon Says Stamp Possum Love. Those are the 2 stamp and die sets that I'm going to be using today. I wasn't sure exactly what images I wanted to use in my card, so I laid them all in my MISTI, and I cut a piece of cardstock to fit. And make sure that you condition your stamps before you go to stamp them for the first time. So get the glossy part off. Now all of my stamp pads are dry, and all of the reinkers are totally out of stock everywhere. So this required multiple stamping. And that is the beauty of the MISTI. There is a sticky mat underneath this cardstock. If you have a Cricut or a Scan and Cut, just get any sticky mat, cut it to fit. It's easy to clean and it works great. Now, I am not a good Copic colorer at all. Sandy Allnock, who created this hex chart, is the person you want to go for Copic coloring. I just throw it on and blend it out the best I can. I decided to do all of the hearts red. I'm using R24, R27, and R29. And then I decided to color all the cats gray and all the dogs a brown color. And since they were going on different cards, no one would know that I colored everything all the same color. So again, I'm not a Copic colorer. I just kind of throw it all down. I do a little dark shadow there and a little light. And there you go. I love making Valentine Day cards. I think they're so fun to make, and I just love everything that goes with them. So what I like to do is I like to grab my markers and just make sure they blend out okay enough for me, just to make sure that I can get a relatively smooth blend, even though, as I said, I'm not a Copic colorer. So I love these little hearts. I fell in love with these little animals a really long time ago. I bought these a while back, and I finally had an opportunity to color them, and they're really a lot of fun to color. And as I was coloring the hearts, I was thinking that maybe they would make really cool shaker cards. So I will show you how I did that, and I think it came out absolutely fabulous. So as I said, I colored all the cats gray, all the dogs brown, and I'm just getting my Valentine Day cards out and about. I like to do quick and simple cards. I don't like to spend 2, 3, 4 hours on a card. That's just me. So I took all the coordinating dies and cut everything out all at one time. And I love the way the dies cut out for these particular cards. I have this great new purple tape that I will link to you to show you. I love it. I've been using it for months now, and it's absolutely my absolute favorite tape. Doesn't stick to the paper, and it doesn't leave any residue, and it's really adheres everything down as it should. So here's all the images that I have created and cut out. And then I decided to take my Simon Says Stamp Large Falling Snow stencil, mix up some iridescent paste with the rosy cheeks. I'm sorry, yes, I did mix it up, and put it on a long card so I can make a slimline card. The Greetery has this great crimp die, which is one of my faves. And I grabbed the smallest of them, no, the medium size. And I'm kind of framing out how big do I want it to be, how big are my little images. So I cut it out with that. Do you see that great crimped edging? It's just fabulous. So I love this stamp, this little stamp saying. You'll see it in just a sec. It came in the it came with the stamp set, which is Simon Says Stamp Possum Love is what this one's called. And I put it on acrylic block and I stamped it, and it actually has a coordinating die, which is so fun. So I'm adhering this small little panel on top of some pink cardstock as I wanted to frame it out. I don't like to measure. I just find it tedious, and then I do math, and then I make a mistake. So I just lay it out with a little tiny border, and then I use this great trimmer because where that silver edge is exactly where it's going to cut, so I can eyeball it and lay it all down. I put that on some cardstock. I did pop it up with a little bit of foam. I cut another crimp die to put it behind, and let's put the wobbles on. So Art Impressions makes the most amazing action wobbles, and they come in 2 sizes. And I'm not really sure what side's supposed to go on the card base and what's supposed to go on the wobbler, but you just pick any side you want. Now, when I was doing this particular cat with the the heart balloon, the heart was a little weak. So I cut up I die cut a piece of white cardstock and glued it behind just to give it a little more strength. I'm just sticking that wobbler down, and I could just wobble all day. I put some foam tape behind the sentiment, and that is the end of this card. I did put some Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen and some glossy accents on the heart balloon, which I'll show you in the finished card, and we're all finished. I went back and did everything. So I have the one with the falling snow, the tiny bubbles. This is the Altenew Tiny Bubbles with the plain white iridescent glitter glitz. Cut it with a small crimped frame, and trying to figure out where I want these little guys to go with the sentiment, and that is how I decided to do it. Again, use the smaller of the action wobbles, put a little red frame around it on a A2 4¼ by 5½ inch card. This is the other background that I made with the mixing of the iridescent and the Simon Says Stamp Rosy Cheeks ink. This is the Avery Elle Hugs die, and I've used this in quite a few videos. Now I wanted my little critters to sit on something. I wasn't sure if it was ribbon, cardstock, or what, but I found this great polka dotted ribbon in my stash, so I thought I would use it. And rather than wrapping it the whole way around the card, I just cut it, adhere it to the sides with a little bit of tape runner, line it up on my glass media mat, and it looks like it wraps the whole way around the card, which is perfect. That's the whole idea of everything. So that card's finished. I'll show you in just a second. But I wanted to make a shaker card. So I'm taking my my cutter and I'm cutting a little triangle out just so I can get my scissors in there. And I'm going to fussy cut out these hearts. It did take a little bit of time, but I really like the way the card came out. So it was well worth it. This is definitely not a card that you're going to mass produce. It's a one of, and you just do it one time because you love it. So here they are all cut out. And I took my Tombow marker and I ran it from the back side along the edges of all that where I fussy cut so you don't see the white cardstock. And it also hides where you don't cut as smooth as you'd like to cut. I then cut some hearts out of some acetate and glued them behind all three of those little critters. And I kind of eyeballed them and put them on my card. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cute. So what I did was I took some foam tape and I cut it into really thin strips. And I peeled the backing off because so it's pliable. And I put it along all the outside edges of each heart. Unfortunately, it was totally out of frame and you could not see it. I did put a little piece of foam tape also on the critter so that all the little sequins that I put in there don't get lost behind the critter. And each one of those hearts has a little bit of foam tape all around the edges. Now in hindsight, I wish I would have put some 1/8 inch double-sided tape on there to get a little more sticky. I ended up using a little bit of glue, but if I was to do this again, I would put an 1/8 inch piece of score tape all around those hearts just to make sure that my sequins did not leak out. So I grabbed a whole bunch of sequins from my stash, and I have this great little sequin scooper. I'll link all the products down below for you so you don't have to go searching. Sequins, they're hard to find. I'm not really sure you can get these particular ones, but any pink sequins or white or hearts or whatever you got in your stash would absolutely work for these, for any shaker card. So then I grabbed some packaging, old packaging, I don't throw it away, and I put those behind these little hearts and stuck them down really, really good, and then just used my scissors to cut around it. And that way I wasn't using some really good acetate, I was just using some packaging so no one was going to see it anyhow because that was going to get stuck to the card. And I really am happy the way they came out. I had to put a little bit of glue in a few areas where some sequins were sneaking out, and I put a heavy block on top so that we didn't lose any more sequins and everything would work on the card. So I'm laying out my card panel and centering it on my desktop, my glass media mat, so I can make sure everything is centered. I did off camera stamp and die cut, or stamp and cut the Happy Valentine's Day sentiment, which I absolutely adore. So I'm making sure the center heart is in the center, and then I will eyeball the other two hearts. As long as you have the first one in the center, you're really all good. And there we are. We have a shaker card. Now I need to put that on on the actual card base. So I cut my card base 3 3/4 by 8 3/4, just a little bit bigger than the card, and it fits perfectly in a Slimline envelope. And I do get all of my Slimline envelopes from Simon Says Stamp. I absolutely adore their Slimline envelopes. They have so many different colors of Slimline envelopes. Say that 10 times fast. I grabbed a little cute little stamp that I got from Lawn Fawn for free. That's the beauty about buying from these stamp companies. And it says, I made this germ-free card for you. And I put that on every single envelope. So here's the bonus card. Here's the shaker card. I love the hearts. It was well worth the fussy cutting and those cute little sequins behind it. It is just so fun. Here's the perfect for me. And look at that wobble. I did put glossy accents on the heart balloon, and I did put some glaze, black glaze pen on the eyes just to give them a little more pop. These guys, as I said, don't wobble as much as the others. I think it's because the ribbon's there, but I just think they're just so adorable holding their hearts. And I did put Nuvo Glimmer pen on there, Aqua Shimmer pen on their hearts just to give them a little more sparkle. And then the last but not least, we have this little guy floating in the air with some glossy accents on that heart balloon. And I just adore these action wobbles. So go on, get yourself some action wobblers. You can put them with any critters. They're so easy to make, and it really adds a little bit of pizzazz and a little bit of interest to your cards that people aren't really expecting. So again, I've linked everything down below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell so that you don't miss anything that comes from Positively Jane. Thanks so much for stopping by.